Hello and welcome everybody to our webinar today, Preparing for a Digital Future with TrueCommerce and GS1 Ireland. So over the next 30 minutes or so, Maria and I will introduce ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about who TrueCommerce and GS1 are, but the main bulk of the webinar today will be talking about GS1's recent Survive or Thrive survey. We're going to go through some survey results and some key takeaways from the perspective of digital commerce and e-commerce and other digital capabilities that food and drink manufacturers and suppliers in the Irish market have. So from an introductions point of view, my name's Ben Taylor. I work in business development for TrueCommerce in the Netlog division. Worked in e-commerce for 10 plus years across multiple solutions as a buyer and a seller. But predominantly today working on the e-commerce solutions for Netlog, for TrueCommerce Netlog, and also touching other ancillary products such as Pack and Ship, Product Information Manager, supporting our managed EDI services. I'm joined today by Maria from GS1 Ireland, and Maria, over to you to introduce yourself.
Hi Ben, hello everybody. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to talk about the research that we have done with food and drink producers here in Ireland. My name is Maria Svejdar. I'm Head of Marketing Communications and Customer Experience with GS1 Ireland. Apart from a small gap in the middle, I've been with GS1 for about 21 years. So over that time, we've met an awful lot of our members. I've worked with lots of different companies, literally from every sector and of all sizes. So from new startups to huge multinationals. I suppose just as a bit of background, the reason we started this survey, part of our strategy is around deeper member engagement and really understanding the needs of our members in Ireland and the challenges and issues that they're facing. Over 50% of our members are in the food and drink sector, so that's why we've specifically looked at this cohort for our first survey, and we will be running other surveys with other cohorts. But it was very important for us as the world changed. There's huge shifts into online shopping and into the e-commerce space. So we really wanted to understand what the challenges were that businesses were facing and to understand how we could help them more, what products and services we offer now, that will help them meet those needs. And also in conjunction with our partners such as TrueCommerce, were there new products and services that we needed to bring to market to help people with specific challenges. So I suppose that's the background to why we started the survey.
Brilliant. Thanks, Maria. Very interesting survey, and I said we're very excited to talk to you about it today. Before we get into it, for those people who aren't familiar with who GS1 are, do you want to provide a very quick overview?
Yeah, very simply, GS1 is a global standards body, and there's a GS1 office in I think about 115 plus countries around the world. So there's a GS1 UK, there's a GS1 Ireland based out of Dublin. And what we do is we work with companies locally that need to adopt GS1 standards for use in their supply chains. Again, that means very different things for healthcare, for food, for construction. But it's really about identifying products and services, both physical and digital, and being able to track them and identify them through the supply chain. So that's what we do, working with companies that want to try and build efficiency and visibility into their supply chains. It's a not-for-profit organization, so we're funded purely by the license fees that people pay to use the standards.
Brilliant. No, efficiency and visibility and not-for-profit are very exciting concepts, I think, certainly for our customer base. So in terms of what we do, thanks ever so much, Maria. In terms of what we do in terms of TrueCommerce, many of you will know who we are. Many of you will be new to us, and this will be the first time you'll be interacting with who TrueCommerce are and what we do. We're very much digital commerce specialists. We've got a suite of applications with which we sell to our client base to help them trade digitally across all channels and do business in every direction. Part of that is commerce storefronts. We help customers integrate with marketplaces, joining their ERPs to their clients and suppliers through EDI, all part of what we do. We specifically wanted to speak to Maria today about this survey because we know there was an e-commerce element, and we're absolutely having similar conversations with lots of customers across the board and taking some really good insights from those customers. And as we develop solutions for our existing customers and new customers, we're able to add some value from what we've we've done in the past, and we hope to do that a bit today. Look at what the current situation is. We obviously know there's some challenges around COVID, some challenges around Brexit, and just really giving us a chance to have a conversation with both GS1 and then back with our customers and prospective customers around how we can help in those areas, and how it all relates back to what their objectives might be.
Yeah, and I think it's important to add that TrueCommerce are gold partners of GS1 Ireland. Between TrueCommerce and some of the, I suppose, the predecessors of the business, obviously your business has evolved a lot over the last 10 plus years. Our relationship would go back to, I suppose, the more traditional trading methods, where suppliers would deal with distributors and the main grocery retailers, and they would be looking at ordering and invoicing through EDI. So that would have been, I suppose, historically where our partnership focused. But I think as your last slide there highlights, the whole move into integrations with online storefronts, marketplaces, and different ways of getting product to market that exist, the need for the use of standards and for solutions such as yourselves has never been greater.
No, definitely. I think that's a really good point. The concept of digital commerce and the definition of digital commerce has changed inextricably over the last 5-10 years, and we've certainly been on that journey with yourselves. So it's great to have you here today to talk about it. So I think enough about us. Let's get on to the main purpose of today, which is to talk about your excellent survey, Survive or Thrive. Could I ask you to give our audience a bit of an overview of the survey, why it was done, who responded, and the context around it, please?
Yeah, of course. So we kicked off this survey there around the end of February. So the results I'm running through were up to date as of the 15th of April. We've had a great response. You know, again, everybody kind of gets survey jet lag after a while, but we've had 235 qualifying candidate responses from 280 total responses, and we've targeted the whole of the island of Ireland, and we're able to drill into the respondees by their location and things like that, in terms of which county in Ireland they're based in, size of business, number of employees. So we're able to pivot the data in quite a lot of different ways. The overall survey breaks down into 4 main areas. The first was around, I suppose, business networks, awards, things like that that are extremely important for food and drink producers in terms of getting recognition and getting PR coverage. So we wanted to know what they valued in those areas. The second area, which I suppose is our focus area for today, is around target markets. So where are people selling? Where are they considering selling? What sales channels they're using in terms of getting to market, both traditional offline and the newer online channels, and some of the mechanisms around e-commerce. We also asked them about their business challenges and plans for growth. So challenges as presented by COVID last year, Brexit at the start of this year, and their outlook for the year ahead, so what they're planning to do. And then obviously sustainability is a really big buzzword and means lots of different things to different businesses. So we wanted to drill into that a bit more and understand from the perspective of food and drink producers what challenges they're facing and where they see the opportunities. So they're the 4 main areas that the survey covers. And as I said, I think we'll kind of deep dive into area 2 today, Ben.
Yep, no, definitely. A fantastic survey, and certainly we've seen the results and had a good look through the results and shared those with our internal teams. And there were some areas we definitely wanted to call out as conversational points for today, where there's certainly overlap and interesting for us to talk with you more about and gain some additional insights. What was the average sort of size of the businesses that were responding to the survey? Were they large? Were they small? Was it across the piece?
It's across the board. I suppose in general, the food and drink, business in Ireland is predominantly SMEs, and by that I even mean by more the micro. They're even smaller than small.
Yeah.
We're all familiar with the big brand names from Ireland, but those companies are few and far between. So the biggest cohort, only had between 2 and 10 employees. The next cohort was, the 2 to 5, and then there was the just me's. So there was only a very tiny percentage that had the over 250 employees. So predominantly very small businesses. Again, but more established. The biggest cohort responding were in business over 5 years, and then it was matching cohorts across the 3 to 5 years and the 18 months to 3 years. So again, established businesses up and running, a couple of newbies in there, but predominantly 2 to 10 employees in business over 5 years.
Okay, perfect. Thanks ever so much for that. Yep, so the first one we wanted to focus on was the results you had to question 8. So through which you're following online sales channels, do you currently sell your products? And often you're asking the respondents to select those that apply. So we had some questions around that, but before I guess I get into the questions that we had, could you just give us that sort of an overview from your perspective as to what this question is showing, what the results are showing?
Yeah, and I suppose this is a follow-on question. The first question we asked them was about their offline sales channels. So, selling to distributors, selling to the mainstream grocery retailers. So then we want to just, deep dive into the online channels that they're doing in addition to the traditional offline. So you can see there that, 55.5% are selling directly to consumers via their own website. So that's a huge step forward. I think a good chunk of that has probably come about within the last year as a response to COVID. An awful lot of Irish food and drink producers, a huge proportion of their sales will be hospitality, pubs and restaurants and things like that. And obviously that took a nosedive last year. So we really saw an awful lot of entrepreneurship and pivoting from, to use that famous word, from the Irish food businesses when they, certain sales channels just got closed off to them overnight, and they needed to shift product. So big boom in selling directly to consumers via their own website. You'll see there 36% then are selling with the major grocery retailers online. So our own retailers, Tesco being a huge contender, but the others have really come through, SuperValu, Dunn's, and then the likes of Lidl and Aldi, and a few other platforms that have launched that facilitate shopping from local grocery stores. So big increase in those listing online with the major grocery retailers. What I suppose surprised me, and I know if we had run the survey a year or two ago, we wouldn't have seen anybody coming back saying that they were selling on social media via the integrated Facebook and Instagram stores that are powered by the likes of Shopify. And then, like we're saying, 26% each there for specialist online marketplaces and mainstream marketplaces such as Amazon. I think that the Amazon one is interesting because most food and drink products aren't maybe naturally suited to a traditional marketplace. So again, saying 26% of them there using that as a channel is great. And then a big rise again last year in terms of the specialist marketplaces. We saw a big boom in things like neighborhood food and local online platforms that literally set up overnight to buy from local producers and sell to local consumers, people who literally, in times where we couldn't go beyond 2 and 5 kilometers, people really wanted to support their local, support local stores and support local producers. So I'd say those two categories there have really come from a zero base. So, and I think that's indicative for the future.
Yeah, really interesting results. I think what surprised us about this one was just the spread, how evenly it was spread about the different channels. And I guess, do you think that was because some of the respondents were trading across multiple channels, or the majority are in one or two? Did you get a view as to whether or not they're focusing on one or two different channels, or there is a move towards trying to get out into as many channels as possible?
Yeah, no, I think definitely the latter. When you filter in and look at as I said, you kind of drill down into people who answered yes in one question, how did those reflect in these answers? And very strongly, people are leveraging every channel that they can. So, for all of those that are selling through distributors, selling to mainstream retailers, they are also hitting all the bases on the online front as well. They are literally leveraging every channel that they can.
Yeah, and that's aligned very much to what we're seeing. I think both driven by the vendors' desire to be in as many places and sell through as many channels and be in as many markets as possible, and also their buyers' desire to interact with the customer through their chosen method. So you may historically have got away with having a website of your own and that being your online offer. I think now omnichannel is almost becoming a standard, that in order to trade online, you have to be hitting certain marks and you have to be surfacing up your data to various different places and making those transactions as well. And we know that brings with it some challenges. Obviously, a lot of our customers will work through their own websites, whether they be transactional or catalog, and then through Amazon storefronts or through, like you said, the more social media ones. And all of those channels need a different set of data, a different transactional message coming in and out to them, whether it be an email or an integrated file. And that can certainly provide some challenges. It's probably not a challenge that someone, like I said, those just me businesses can handle by themselves. They certainly need some help from someone who can take that technical weight off, and just they can give the instruction, I want to trade via Amazon, and someone else can take that weight away from them. And that's certainly what we're keen to help with in this space.
Yeah, I imagine that for anybody who's trying to do multiple channels but deal with each one on its own basis, it must be an administrative and logistical nightmare to try and manage all those sales if they're not all integrated or flowing back into one system somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I guess another interesting point we took from this one was that the own marketplace, the own website, is favored to maybe the Amazon storefronts. And again, I think we're seeing a huge demand and a huge kick towards those shared marketplaces, but there's still a huge desire, especially as you reference, for those maybe smaller family-based businesses, the guys who have got a lot of brand equity in terms of what they do, to trade with their clients using their own language, their own tone of voice, and take ownership of that touch point. I think you lose some of that through the marketplaces. They're fantastic to get your product out to lots of different places, but I think we can understand why there's a desire to retain your own transactional website within the set of options you have to trade online.
Yeah, and I think your own website is critically important. It's the one asset that's entirely yours, that you control, that you've ownership of. If you're listed on any of these other external platforms, you've no control over the fact that tomorrow they could turn you off, or they could delist you, or
Definitely.
they could go out of business and the website could be just gone. So
Definitely.
having your own website is critically important.
Yeah, definitely. The next one we had, which is quite interesting, and I guess we have a lot of conversations with clients who haven't yet gone into the commerce space around what is selling on a website. So a lot of sort of people will still see just positioning a selection of products on a website as a sales tool, as selling. And so looking at this slide, we had that question, but I think it's answered on the next slide. So around actually what state their website might be in. Could you talk a little bit around the results you saw from this slide? We've got some questions on this one as well, which we're going to.
Yeah, and I think again, if you compare this to some of the other market research that some of our web providers, some of our internet providers, and that would have done around getting businesses online. I know Google put a huge amount of time and effort into encouraging businesses to get online and set up a basic website. So I suppose despite all of that, we can still see there over 18% of the respondents don't have a company website yet. We would also see, even just with new businesses and startups, that they maybe start out with Facebook pages and Instagram pages and things like that over and above having their own website, and that the website is something that comes later. Another 36% there, they do have a website, but it's got no e-commerce capability. So they're still, I suppose, missing out on huge opportunities. And I think, given the year we've had, those companies there still have huge opportunity to get online, fully online, and however, a lot of these platforms, it's very easy to add in any of the big e-commerce shops. They're pretty much a click and install. Between the likes of Stripe and everything else, that the payment options are very easy to integrate and add. So we do know, as I said to you when we were having a chat about the survey, a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into responding to the survey and filling out the comments boxes and adding the other options. So even those that don't have the website, or maybe it's not e-commerce enabled yet, a lot are in progress. They were kind of adding, like, it's out to tender, it's in progress, we're currently building. And a lot of these food and drink businesses have been extremely busy over the last year. So I suppose finding time for a website project is not something you undertake overnight. It's a big job. So to do that in conjunction with an extremely busy year is a challenge. But I suppose on the positive side, there are over 40% plus there, up to 60%, that are, I suppose, properly e-commerce enabled to some extent, whether it's just the site by itself with payment capabilities. And then the other 20% there where, they are more sophisticated in terms of their integrations, their EDI and so on, that they can offer online. And, it's the bigger companies there that, have built their websites to integrate with their internal systems. So there's a long journey there for companies to move through as they grow and develop, but lots of opportunity still. And I suppose
definitely
work partners
Yeah.
like yourselves, there are lots of solutions out there for anybody who's ready to take the next step.
Definitely, and that's the key part that jumped out for us, aligned to what we see in the marketplace, is that there's still a load of opportunity for businesses who aren't yet doing transactional e-commerce, who don't have a website to go and do that and differentiate themselves from the competitors. There's still a good chunk of their competitors which will be operating still via the old analog route and not engaged so much with digital. And I guess once you do engage, there's different levels of engagement as well. I think there's obviously a low proportion of people who have got integrated solutions, and we find integrated to be a fairly subjective term as well. For some people, an integration is having data coming into a PIM and then being fed up into a web store without having to push it in via a spreadsheet. For others, an integration is absolutely not having to make any manual adjustments in the web store at all. It's all done in the back office system, and all the orders are coming in. You've maybe got returns and invoices going back out to the solution. So integration, yeah, is a subjective term. And like I said, as you referenced, there's normally the larger companies which go down the fully integrated route. But we'd expect as the online channels grow for these businesses, integration to be the absolute key driver in generating the return on investment and reducing the cost to serve through these channels, which is absolutely what it's about. And I think said that some of the smaller respondents to the survey may be looking at the e-commerce mountain and thinking, how the hell am I going to get to the top of that? How am I going to get my e-commerce offering out there? So working with experts in this area who understand the full picture, not just the storefront, but have the integration capabilities, can manage the product information data is incredibly key, and where certainly as a business we like to help people and can absolutely support by wrapping it all together and saying, right, just come to us. We understand where you want to get to, and we'll absolutely help you get there, and taking that consultancy approach. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge, and you can understand
it is
why
a challenge. And I suppose interesting for some businesses, I suppose they're trying to figure out how their product fits with the e-commerce space. A number of respondents, in particular, came from the alcoholic beverages category. So they face regulatory restrictions around the sale of their products online, which has nothing to do obviously with the actual e-commerce capability. And then you have other products, liquid products, that they're trying to figure out how do you ship it, and things like eggs, that could be, you'd have scrambled egg arriving by the time it got to you. So obviously, yeah, e-commerce isn't for everybody, either by the nature of their business or the size of their business.
Yeah, no, really, really interesting. Another key area that we always want to talk about that we saw was an interesting one, was just people, I guess, especially in the Irish market, where they're looking to trade, where they're looking to grow their businesses, given what's happening with Brexit and I guess what's in the local market. Could you talk a little bit more around this slide before we ask you our questions?
This was was again very positive, I suppose, and we've seen a number of things. I suppose when we wrote the survey, it was in January. Brexit was all over the headlines in terms of restrictions in the ports and trucks getting stuck and nothing making it across the Irish Sea. So we asked people two questions: one in terms of which markets were they currently trading in, as in the yes question. So obviously, Republic of Ireland, was the bulk of respondents, the north of Ireland. And then obviously diminishing then the further out we go. But the interesting one I thought was around the considering. We've seen a huge growth in interest, in particular between the Republic of Ireland and the North of Ireland, both with Irish Republic of Ireland suppliers looking to the North as a market they can easily access. And equally, suppliers in the North of Ireland are pivoting and really considering targeting retailers in the Republic of Ireland, because they don't have the same logistics issues that they would have in trying to trade with, retailers on mainland UK. So that was very interesting. But notwithstanding all of that, over 20% of respondents are still considering the UK as a target market for an area they want to grow and move into. Again, it's a very big market relative to the size of the Republic of Ireland. It's English speaking. And I think a lot of the shipping and the logistics issues are fairly temporary. And I think it's a market that a lot of Irish producers need to seriously consider. And it does offer huge opportunities. So I thought it was positive that people didn't feel it was kind of a door that had been closed to them, and it was something they were still going to explore and move into. What's not shown here on this slide, but also is covered in the research, is around about I suppose, the reasons or what they thought were going to be the biggest impacts. We would have expected it to be around customs and tariffs and trade and paperwork, but it actually wasn't. That was well down the list in terms of issues with Brexit. It was really more, accessing raw ingredients and things like that, and packaging. They were the big issues coming out of Brexit, not tariffs and customs.
Yeah, really, really interesting. I think certainly when we speak to our customers about wanting to expand into new markets, which is absolutely something they're looking to do and grow and look outside of maybe a mature market or look at further afield. And those customers that we've got who are trading in large markets were continental Europe, who are now looking outside of that to the Americas, Middle East. Cost is obviously a big one. How do you do it? How do you access that market without introducing so much cost into your business that it becomes too risky to do, or you have to hit a certain amount of value in terms of sales and throughput before it becomes viable? You can't run a loss for any given period of time. And again, coming back to the commerce piece, and we found that having a website, being able to push product and transact in those areas without having maybe a sales team on the ground, or even having a site which maybe isn't transactional, just to test the market, to understand how much demand there is for your product in those areas, works incredibly well. So yeah, I guess the 20% was lowish in terms of people wanting to get into Europe, but I think if you take away those cost barriers and take away the risks, you'd expect that to go up. And it's great that your Irish producers and your Irish manufacturers are still wanting to come into the UK, and Brexit hasn't broken their desire to do that. It's fantastic
No,
news.
and I say the bulk of that 20% is considering very traditional channels as well. They're, that's very much targeting your high street retailers, the main grocery retailers. The likes of Amazon gives people a huge opportunity to target several markets, both in continental Europe, through each of the Amazon channels, without looking at any of the mainstream retailers. So
definitely,
huge
and targeted
opportunities
offering as well, isn't it? It's making sure that maybe where you are a food and drink supplier, where you've got some sensitive products which maybe don't travel as well, making sure you cut the catalogue that you're presenting to the right person, to the right region, so you're not having to ship the products that aren't going to make that journey on that journey.
Yeah, I know we come on to it later, but also maybe spinning their product offering and thinking about other product offerings that they can make. So maybe there's a dried version, a frozen version of of their core fresh product that they can offer for online sale.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the key message is that people aren't looking internally. They haven't been battered so hard by the last 12 months that they're just consolidating. They want to develop what they're doing and actually expand. And I think this was probably the point we wanted to address on this next.
I suppose this is my favorite slide, I think, out of the whole survey, because it could have been a big red pie. But no, I mean, I suppose this for me, like 67% of the respondents are not, are planning to grow and scale. So it's very progressive and proactive. With then a slightly smaller percentage, they're looking to just maintain their current levels. So obviously even just maintaining and holding stock is a brilliant place to be. But yeah, we were blown away by the progressive nature of what people were planning. Again, we had text boxes where they could put in what they were planning to do, and like just it's a breath of fresh air reading through that list, page after page of what people are planning to do. Lots of new hires, new machinery, new premises, outsourcing production, bringing production into in-house. There's a lot planned, and people are really going for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And certainly from our perspective, for a business that is dependent on people's aspirations to grow into new spaces, develop their offering, grow into new markets, and just invest, it's absolutely critical for us. So yeah, I guess we all had moments over the last 12 months where thinking, is normality ever going to are we ever going to see normality again? Are people ever going to want to be as positive as they were previously? And I guess this reflects it's just there, it's just under the surface, and as soon as you start to strip things back and get things back to normal, that desire to really push forward and expand and do things differently is still there, which is
and I think a lot A lot of businesses maybe had plans for last year around launching new product ranges and things like that
Yeah.
that were put on hold. So they're all, going full steam
Yeah.
ahead now this year.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. So this next one's linked to that in terms of how they want to grow. So we know that growth is obviously incredibly important and underpins almost everything that we're all doing, but doing it in a certain way. And this sustainability buzzword, which is everywhere at the moment and obviously incredibly important for obvious reasons, was absolutely at the heart and of people's thoughts by the looks of things.
It was very much, and certainly it was something that was coming more and more to the fore, even in the run up, 2018, 2019, and research that we had done. It took a bit of I suppose, of a pause last year while people were dealing with the day-to-day reality of staying alive. But it's really come back onto the front pages in a big way in the last couple of months. But as I mentioned to you, like, sustainability means very different things to different businesses depending on
Yeah.
which sector
Yeah.
you're in. So we really wanted to drill into that a little bit more. So you'll see there on the right, like the various categories of responses that we got back. And interestingly, the two around packaging came out the top, both in terms of changing the type of packaging that they were using. So whether that was shifting from plastic to paper or to glass, or even just changing the type of plastic that they were using, maybe shifting from, away from some of the black plastics that can't be recycled. But in tandem with that, they're also looking to reduce the quantity of packaging across all aspects of the supply chain. So that's either in terms of the amount of packaging coming in on the raw ingredients that they're buying in, how they're packaging their own product, how they're even for the e-commerce direct to consumer, so you're looking at a lot more packaging and outer packaging, how they can reduce that, and how things are bulk packed for shipping into retailers and distributors, who are in turn looking to reduce the amount of packaging coming into them. So two big variables there that are, I suppose, dominating people's thoughts at the moment around type of packaging, quantity.
Super interesting. And for us, the interesting points around this were sort of the cutting of food miles and desire to reduce carbon output, general carbon output. We've seen a huge kick up in terms of people's desire to drop ship, either to clients or to bypass routes to market, and for manufacturers to go to market direct. Obviously, commerce is a really easy way to do that, but once you've got the order on, you then need to make sure you're shipping it in the right way. And a lot of our clients set up for B2B trade and maybe shipping by the pallet or by the layer. They then have to come back down to the unit item. So there's need sophisticated solutions that talk to each other through the supply chain to allow that to happen. So much demand for additional drops. It's been crazy, and luckily we've had the solutions in place to be able to service that. We also noticed that where the traditional sort of model of reps being out on the road and driving around all day every day, going and taking orders from customers has been hit very, very hard by what's happening with COVID. People have realized they need other ways to be able to take orders and transact with their customers, and not just transact, but serve their customers in other ways, allow them to manage accounts and make payments and serve up invoices where maybe their credit controllers are working from home and haven't got access to systems. So certainly the whole commerce piece services those two areas and is linked incredibly closely to the sustainability piece. And our customers who have got fairly mature digital offerings, that sustainability piece is very much at the top of what they're talking about when they're talking about the benefits that commerce offering is delivering. So great to see that is at the forefront of people's minds, and also good to hear and gives us some confidence that the tools that we're giving our clients allows them to hit some of those marks and address what they're looking to do around sustainability and protecting the environment, which is important to us all.
Yeah. And consumers will vote for their feet. It's if you're going out there to buy something, whether it's in store or, from an e-commerce site, you're going to pick the products that are more sustainable, more eco-friendly to you. So it's I suppose an extra tick box that businesses need to be able to tick off the list.
Yeah, definitely agreed. Well, Maria, I could talk to you about it all day. Super interesting. I said it's an area that we're incredibly passionate about, and some of the results, not just in the commerce areas, but throughout the survey, was super interesting. And yeah, like I said, it's a shame we haven't got all day to talk about it. But I guess in terms of a summary, if you were to put out three things that you've noticed from the survey or key takeaways, we've pulled out what we think our three are, but what would your three be?
No, I'd agree. I suppose first and foremost, a phenomenally positive response to the survey. We were half worried, would we get sort of a whole list of doom and gloom and business closures and all the rest of it? But no, overwhelmingly, everybody is looking to scale, to grow, to look at new markets, to embrace every sales channel that they can. You know, set themselves up for I suppose the new normal, an online environment, you know, selling products online, whether that's through their own stores or through marketplaces or through retailer stores. And I suppose even areas that we didn't, you know, we didn't even touch on, which are around, you know, farmers markets, market boxes, you know, really innovative ways of getting to market. So overwhelmingly, you know, really positive outcome. You know, and I suppose, yeah, the food and drink sector is in a good place, and it's plans to go places.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, from our perspective, it's great to see that people are looking to grow outside their existing markets, expand into other areas. They're looking at different routes to market, online marketplaces, different web stores, and then offering the consumers the ability to buy direct. There's a huge opportunity there. Manufacturers maybe have used the traditional routes to market previously, but now there's a whole desire for consumers to get closer to those local producers and maybe not buy from the big conglomerates. They're happy to concede on convenience to support those local businesses, and I guess a great way to put the product in front of those consumers is online, and so we're very much here to help in that respect. So no, super interesting. Thank you very much for your time. So up on screen, there's some details around how you can contact both TrueCommerce and GS1 should you want any more information about either the survey, the results of the survey, what GS1 do, or equally what TrueCommerce do. Very, very happy to have those conversations. Anything to add, Maria, before we let the audience go?
I suppose, yeah, just to say, obviously this was, as we mentioned at the very beginning, just one small section of the whole survey. We are putting together a comprehensive report going through the whole survey. So if anybody does want to send me an email or, you know, hit our website and register, we'll be more than happy to send them out a copy of the full report when it's published. But thank you very much for your time. Delighted.
Thank you so much for your time. Yeah, super interesting. Thank you thank you everyone for joining us on the webinar today. Appreciate it. Thanks ever so much. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.